All right, trick or treat. So as we all know, there's been a lot of young quarterbacks getting benched recently, but this year has also shown those young QBs might not be done forever. Baker Mayfield last year starting his resurgence, Sam Darnold this year, Joe Flacco at 39 coming out and showing that he can still ball like last year. Andy Dalton showed a little promise over there in Carolina. And so now the real question is trick or treat. Will these young QBs ever make a true comeback? Starting with, you know them, you love them, we all love them. Mac Jones, baby. Trick or treat, Mac Jones. Will the Mac attack ever show back up and be a viable starting QB for an
No,
NFL team? What do we think?
no.
Trick.
Trick. There's no way.
Trick?
He won't even make it in the UFL.
Ain't no way that
Oh.
dude's coming for a starting position anywhere
I agree.
unless they're that down bad.
I hate to say
Like-
it as a former Mac Jones lover. I agree. I think he's washed. I don't think he'll make a comeback. But I will say I think it's because the Patriots killed him. The Patriots
think
killed
the
this
Patriots
man,
killed him.
and he's not someone
I
who
just-
can build himself up.
I just think the issue with Mac Jones was no one really liked him because he was an asshole. A very entitled child. I think he just came into the league kind of expecting it to be like Alabama, and when things went wrong, instead of taking accountability, like most good quarterbacks do, he threw tantrums, he stomped his feet, he pointed fingers. Like, imagine being one of the guys on the sideline seeing your quarterback basically break down after twisting his ankle. Not even spraining it, just twisting it a little. You got to get dragged off the field by two dudes, and then it's like, oh yeah, guys, I stubbed my toe. It's like he's just a joke. I think the fact that he had 3 starting quarterback seasons is bro was competing with Bailey Zappi. That's all that needs to be said.
He was a pro bowler that first year. He was
Huntley.
second in rookie of the year that
Huntley.
first year.
Huntley was a Pro Bowler.
That is
Huntley
true.
is-
Tyler Huntley was also a Pro Bowler. Pro Bowls don't mean nothing like they used to.
No.
Oh,
I just think bro's gonna be like a freaking backup QB his whole career.
he
I don't
honestly,
think
I
he'll
can
be
see him being a
backup
fine
long.
backup. He's a smart guy still.
Yeah.
I mean, he fumbled his second snap against Buffalo when they were getting blown out.
That's true. That's true. That's
I
true.
saw that one live too. That
All
felt
right.
good.
Well, this one you guys might like this one a little more. Okay. He's tired though. He's resting right now. Anthony Richardson for after just getting the newest young QB to get benched. Anthony Richardson was too tired, needed to take a couple plays off, and then the coach said, "Nah, you'll take the rest of the season off as long as Flacco doesn't like break a leg or something." Do you think Anthony Richardson, with all his physical gifts, do you think he'll eventually be able to put it together, or do you guys think he's done? What about you? What do you think, Nikos?
I think he's a treat. I think he'll come back from this. I don't think he's gonna really degrade at all or just kind of slowly fade away into like some kind of backup position. And I don't think Joe Flacco is gonna take that entire spot from him because it's Joe Flacco. He's a goat, but he's like also how old is he? Like 40? Like what? How old? You guys know
He's
how
only
old he
like
is?
38,
He's like
39.
38.
He's not that
38?
old.
I thought he was in his 40s almost, but he's getting to that point, and I think Anthony Richardson either is just going to stay with Indianapolis and eventually develop and keep on working, but I don't know.
I know
I
you're
think
a
he's
betting man, Nikos. If you had to bet, is he going to be a treat for a different team, or do you think he'll end up figuring it out in Indy?
I think he'll end up figuring it out in Indy, to be honest.
Okay, what about you, Evan?
I am going to phrase this weird. I think he is a trick that can turn into a treat. I think here's the issue. He has barely played any games, even since high school. If you look at his time played in college, time played in high school, he's missed a lot of games. He gets hurt a lot. And I know he's young, got all the physical talent in the world, but the big issue is he has no experience. He doesn't have a lot of experience being able to throw into these tight windows. Because all these years, he's just used to being the most athletic guy on the field. You're in the NFL anymore, or NFL now, you can't get away with that anymore. I think if he is to work, I think he needs to sit for at least 2, even maybe 3 seasons. I think he needs to sit for a while. I don't think this is like a one and done, sit for a year, come back. I think he needs a lot of time to learn and actually grow as a passer because I just don't think right now he's anywhere near NFL ready as a passer. I mean, he's 22. You sit him for another 2 seasons. He comes in at 25 ish. I think he could maybe figure it out, but I don't think the Colts want to wait that long. And I think if he isn't ready next year, I think he's gone. And I think we could see a Darnold type situation with him where he does end up sitting for someone else for a year. Maybe their quarterback goes down, he comes in, or someone just takes another risk on him. And maybe then we start seeing him become a tree. So I think we could see that. But I think it's more likely he just doesn't figure it out and one of those guys that just goes to waste.
Yeah, I can see that. I'll say this. I think a great comp for Anthony Richardson is Cam Newton if Cam Newton never practiced. It's like that is what Anthony Richardson is. He's a true physical guy, but he's never practiced. He's like, and like Cam Newton, even with practicing, Cam Newton would struggle sometimes. Like physical gifts in the NFL can only get you so far. And Anthony Richardson right now just isn't showing the mental aspect of the game. Plus the fact that they had such a need, they were like, oh, he needs to play snaps to be able to progress. They should have been having him play every down in preseason. And then when it came to the actual regular season, they should have been like, okay, we're going to play whoever we think is actually best. And Anthony Richardson, that might not be you right now, but that's okay because you need time to just develop, give them those, at least get them practice reps. I think they finally have this figured out that that's what they need to do and pray that practice reps and preseason reps will be enough for them. But I don't know. It's going to be a tough one. I could also see him being like what you said, Evan, being a trick and turning into a treat. Because I think if he figures it out mentally, he'll be fine. It's just like, will he? I just don't know. I don't think he will. He wasn't that good at Florida. A lot of people were saying, oh, that Florida offense, they didn't have receivers for him. He threw like 50% at Florida. He's doing the same thing in the NFL. Are you going to say Indianapolis doesn't have receivers? They have like one of the best receiving cores with Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, and Alec Pierce. That's a top, at least Taylor, a top half receiver.
And Adonai Mitchell.
Yeah, and Mitchell. And who? Who'd you say, Evan?
He's saying Jonathan Taylor.
I said Taylor.
Oh, yeah, and he has Taylor to rely on out of the backfield. He has an easy check down option. I mean, Anthony Richardson, a lot of the plays he did have, he was home run or nothing, which that's another just mental thing where it's like he needs to be cool with check. He could give Jonathan Taylor like eight catches a game out of the backfield, and they'd probably win an extra game or two.
Fantasy. Throw it to Taylor 8 times a game, please.
Yeah, then you're trying to get rid of him right after you got him, though.
I don't know what you're talking about. I would never do such a thing.
The Bijan attempt. The Bijan attempt. All right.
That's just my weekly mess with Logan, okay?
This next one.
What he gets for trying to trade me a dude who's out for season.
This next one, he was benched, but due to a car accident, he had to come back a little early. And that is Bryce Young. Do we think Bryce Young is a trick or treat? I want to start with this one. I think he's a pure trick. I thought he was a trick coming out of college, not just because of his size and his measurables, but I just felt like he didn't have the most arm strength. He was kind of accurate, not even the most athletic guy in the world. He's just like, he's and he's 5'9". He's an 5'9" QB, and like that's just not what you can have in the NFL. So I think he's a pure trick for anyone. I think the Panthers' dumbest decision an NFL organization has ever made. It's 100 times worse than when the Rams did it for Jared Goff, and Goff he ended up becoming a treat for Detroit, but he was kind of a trick a little for LA. I think they were just a little too blaming.
He was a scapegoat.
Yeah, he was a scapegoat. And it's way worse than RG3 because at least RG3 got hurt and he showed potential. Just Bryce Young has just been a mess. And then even this year, they have had like 2 or 3 guys on that O-line have been top 10 O-linemen in the NFL. And he doesn't get the ball out, so he's still taking sacks. The receivers, they're young, especially now with Deontay Johnson getting traded and Adam Thielen out. Xavier Legette, he's a fine rookie. Jalen Coker had him as a big-time fantasy sleeper in past weeks. who he did drop like 17 fantasy points last
Coke
week.
He
man.
hit on
So
most
I
of
was
ours.
a
He
week
hit.
I was a week early on him, but I still think he's
The
fine.
Njoku
But
and Elijah Moore calls were on spot too. We had a good week that week and
we
guesses.
we did pretty good with those picks. But I think he's a pure trick. I don't have faith in Bryce Young ever finding rhythm. I don't even think he'll be a journeyman backup. I don't think he'll even be that. I think he's going to be out of the league within the next 4 years.
I agree.
Yeah, I think he's also going to be a trick. I don't see him rebounding, especially with the Panthers, and I don't see him fitting with any other scheme, any other
Oh,
teams.
yeah. If he does end up making a comeback, it will not be with
Yeah,
the Panthers.
It'll surprise me if he does. I'll say that.
But who knows? Maybe it really is the Panthers. I mean, it was a different coaching
Yeah.
staff when it happened, but they did have Baker and Sam Darnold, 2 top 10 QBs this year. And they didn't want to start either of them. They traded Baker and just benched Darnold. It was kind of rough.
True.
All right, this next QB, he's been also benched, or no, he never got benched by the first team, but just got benched by his second team. But he didn't look too terrible at times, and that is Justin Fields. Trick or treat, Evan.
Trick. I don't really have much to say. I just think how many times do we have to see him go out there and just not be good? It's not like he hadn't been given time or weapons. Like, look what Russell Wilson just did, who is someone everyone was saying was washed, and he goes out there and makes his offense look 10 times better. I think we have to just come to the terms that Justin Fields is flashy with the ball in his hands, but he just can't throw the football. I mean, maybe we look at trying to turn him into a running back or wide receiver if you're the Steelers.
Yeah, I saw.
Yeah.
I remember seeing
Explosive with the ball.
Instagram. It was like he's a true just Instagram QB, and he really is. He shows a couple flashy highlights, but he's a true one-read guy. He either throws it to his wide receiver one or he runs. But in Pittsburgh, he couldn't even do that because he couldn't get the ball to Pickens. At least in Chicago, he would force feed DJ Moore, which I loved back in the day. But he couldn't even do that right in Pittsburgh. And I thought at least he could do that right in Pittsburgh because Pickens is a fine target. But no, he is a one-read guy.
I just think it's disappointing. Someone as athletic as him, he has the arm talent too. It's just another one of those things where it's just mental. I mean, like, if you're Pittsburgh, like, screw it. Like, he's healthy. Lay him at wide receiver. Give it a shot. What's the worst that happens? He
Throw him in a wideout. Put him in the slot. 1-on-1.
I mean, if he can catch a ball, why not? He has the athleticism, honestly. It's not a bad idea.
I mean, they wanted to return.
Do some trick plays. Make him Taysom Hill.
Nikas, do you think it's also a trick, or do you think he's
I think it's a trick.
Hope?
I think it's a trick, but I think he's just lacking those like slight attributes that every single NFL QB has, and that's how they perform well in the NFL. And I think that goes with Fields. I think he's just lacking a lot of those things. Like, he has those some points where he makes like, maybe he could be like. Maybe he could perform in the NFL, but then it's always that question of like, oh wait, then he's also does this dog shit play later on in the game, and it just brings those expectations all the way back down to where they were in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been on the Bears, and the Bears he did the same thing, and then now he's in the Steelers, he's doing the same thing, and then if he goes to another team and then does the same thing, I think
exactly that is a big thing. Like, it's the same issue. Same issues he had in Chicago, he's having in Pittsburgh. Literally it's like he hasn't progressed at all in the last like 2-3 years he's been in the league. He's the same QB he was coming out of college.
And it's even worse with the Bears, because I feel like the Bears at that point, they had DJ Moore, they had Cole Kmet at that time, I'm pretty sure.
Yep, they
had so many weapons on that offense too, just like the Pittsburgh Steelers do, and it didn't matter.
Yeah, and real quick, like, that's what I hated was like all the people that were being like, oh, they're getting so many more weapons for Caleb, which I mean they did go get Keenan Allen and Roma Dunze in the same year.
That is true.
But they still got Justin Fields weapons. He had DeAndre Swift was there last year, right? So he had
No, this is his first year. He was in Philly last year.
Who'd they have didn't they have a good running back a year or two ago with him?
It was like Herbert mixed with.
Oh, they had Montgomery too, and
Montgomery.
They had Montgomery like 3 years ago at this point. He's been with Lions for 2 years now.
Yeah, 3 years ago, Fields' rookie year, he had Montgomery. But, I mean, they went out and got DJ Moore. They had Cole Kmet. Like, they had some weapons for the guy.
They had Mooney.
Yeah, they had Darnell Mooney, who just balled out just a couple weeks ago. I mean, he's still doing quite fine. Not 3 TDs, but, I mean, you're not going to get that every week. But he had Darnell Mooney. Like, he had weapons last year. So, it's like people saying that, oh, he had no weapons beforehand. He did have weapons. He just didn't use them because he's a one-read QB. All right, speaking of Steelers, though, we got to talk about another Steelers QB, Kenny Pickett. Trick or treat, Kenny Pickett. He was a first-round QB. First-round QB was this man.
I'm going to cut you off right there and answer for all of us. He's a trick. Next player.
Yeah, you're right. I'm going trick. He's nothing. Nico, are you going to surprise us? You think Kenny Pickett might be something?
Dude's a bot. I won't even use him on Madden. I would use freaking like Tyrod Taylor instead of him.
I'd pick Taylor too, honestly. Taylor has some athleticism. Okay, that one was so quick. This one might make you guys think a little. It might not. We're going Trey Lance. Trey Lance, trick or treat.
I'm going trick. If you can't work on the 49ers, you're not working anywhere.
He's not working on Dallas either, but that is true. If they're going with the Mr. Now Purdy's a good quarterback, don't get me wrong, but they're saying, yeah, we'll go Mr. Irrelevant. That I think is not working out. Plus, I think also another sign that he is going to end up being a trick is the sheer fact that Jerry Jones ended up saying, fuck it, I'll pay Dak Prescott more than Deshaun Watson. Then take a chance and see if Trey Lance might be a guy in the future, which I think that was really telling, just how badly he wanted to keep Dak around just because he knew what he had in the system and it wasn't looking good.
Classic Jerry Jones, too, keeping everything the same.
That's true. It is classic Jerry Jones. He always likes to overstay his welcome with players and coaches. But do you think Trey Lance has a shot, Nikos, or do you think he's also done?
No, I think he's also done. Gonzo.
All right, this guy I think we all appreciate at some level. We all appreciate this man, Mr. Mayo himself, Will Levis. Trick or treat, Will Levis, Nikos.
Will Levis. It's tough to say because like the Titans. He hasn't really been able to show himself on any other scheme or any other playbook, any other team. I'm going to have to go trick for now, but I can see him potentially becoming a treat for a different team in the future. Develops a little bit more. I'm not sure if he's a good fit for the Titans, and I think if he stays on the Titans, it's just not going to look well and it's not going to end well. But I don't know. Yeah, trick for now.
What about you, Evan?
So I've actually been thinking about Will Levis.
Because casually he's been on your mind.
I've actually been thinking about something.
He's been squirting the mayo in his.
I will die on this hill. Even if it never happens, I will die on this hill. If you put Will Levis on the Giants, Dable would turn him into a Josh Allen.
On the Giants?
Oh, crazy.
I don't think he would reach the same I don't think he would reach the same ceiling as Josh Allen.
Crazy.
I think they play very similar, where they're both strong arm QBs who love to run the football, drop their shoulder. They'll take a hit. They're going to make dumb mistakes. Like we saw that early on in Allen's career a lot. And I think Dable came in and kind of help Allen kind of reel himself in. And I think if you sent Will Levis to the New York Giants, first off, I think they would find their guy. But you're telling me that wouldn't feed families seeing Will Levis drop that ball over the top to Malik Neighbors every play? I think that's a perfect match in heaven. I think he is a treat because I think that Will Levis has all the skills to be the right quarterback. I just think he needs an OC that helps him progress and actually kind of take less dumb risks, but keep taking those high risk, deep balls and being aggressive.
I'm actually going to agree. I'm going to go, he can be a treat in the right situation. He's got a big arm. he's truly willing to say fuck it, which I completely respect the hell out of.
I mean, that's
And I
pretty
think
much what we all said so
if
far.
he just needs to fix, he just needs to fix the turnovers and the dumb plays. If he can just minimize that instead of being way off like this, and he just makes the play a little more consistent, a little less wild, I think a team could honestly really appreciate having him around. I really do. I agree.
I just think the Giants are the perfect fit. Like, screw it.
That would be a
Tennessee-
fun fit. And honestly, I could see the Giants making that move this offseason. I could see them saying, fuck
They
it, we'll
need
go.
to.
Because it's not the strongest QB class. There's a couple guys, but it's not the strongest. They might say, fuck it, we'll go into the free agency market, especially with how well free agent QBs have kind of ended up working out the last couple years. Unless you're...
I don't think Levis will be a free agent, though, because this is his second year in the league. But
That's
I
true,
could
they'd
see
have to trade for him.
I could see Tennessee being a team that's like, screw it, we're going to trade him. Because I think Tennessee probably finishes bottom 5 in pick, and they probably want to go quarterback. And I could see them trying to move Will Levis for like a 4th or 5th. And if you're the Giants, and you don't have a top 5 pick or you don't like a quarterback, why don't you take a risk on him? Like, give up a 5th round pick, go get Levis, and maybe you can even, if you're lucky, get Daniel Jones dropped off to Tennessee. Maybe Tennessee will eat the contract.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's real evident that they're definitely going to be willing to trade him because they didn't have a fine backup behind him. They went to Mason Rudolph. Like, if you're saying I'll go Mason Rudolph over Will Levis, I mean, I think the Titans coaching situation is also horrendous. They should have never fired Mike Rabel. I think they should have trusted Mike Rabel's instinct of saying this front office isn't it. I don't know why the owner was just like, no, you're wrong. I think the front office is good. I think Mike Rabel is
but they had Tannehill. They brought Tannehill in, dude. That was going to win them the Super Bowl, right?
Had some good playoff runs with them.
Wasted Derrick Henry's career.
Good.
Speaking of former AFC East QBs, though, Zach Wilson. Trick or treat Zach Wilson over there learning behind Sean Payton. Do you guys think Sean Payton is actually going to be able to resurrect Zach Wilson a bit? Or do you think he has truly busted out since leaving New York? I will say, I'll start. I think, honestly, there's a chance he turns into a treat. If he just plays smart, he gets the ghost out of his head entirely, and he can just read a defense and stay calm. I think the New York media, I think New York in general, just had him too antsy, he got too awestruck, starstruck by everything. I think he wasn't ready for it. I think he should have sat when he was in New York. I could see this ending up being, the Jets also, their last couple QBs they've had that they've drafted, Geno Smith, had a 1 year. He's still doing all right, but a true 1 year wonder in Seattle. He looked better than he ever did in a New York jersey, even now, though. Then Sam Darnold, he's killing it in Minnesota. I could easily see Zach Wilson being the third guy in this list, especially if he truly is learning with Sean Payton. And I don't think he'll be Bo Nix. But I think he could still be a guy who ends up being able to be a viable starter for a couple years, a good bridge QB. If we're counting a bridge QB as a treat in this situation, Zach Wilson could easily be a treat for someone.
All I'm saying, feed my man some hot moms and he's a treat.
I think he's a treat. I agree with a lot of what you said. I don't think he was the problem in New York. The Jets were winning more games last year with Wilson than they are with Rodgers. And if you're going to tell me, the situation's different. Yeah, the situation is different. It's 10 times better for this team.
True.
And I think Zach Wilson has a lot of talent. I really liked him when he got drafted. And I said the same thing with Darnold back when he got drafted all the way back then. If he ever gets a chance off of the Jets, he's going to work out. I just think the Jets are a kill zone. Quarterbacks don't work out there for the same reason you said. The media is too much. The fan base is too much. And they will throw you out there right away. The Jets are never going to draft a quarterback and have him sit for a year. They're going to be like, okay, well, we drafted you, so you're going to go out there, and if you throw 5 interceptions, well, you can throw 5 more before we bench you.
That's why it's good. That's why it's good that the Jets.
And I think if we can see Wilson actually get some time to sit like he is right now for the rest of the year, I hope Bo Nix doesn't get hurt. We see Wilson sit for a year. Maybe he's a free agent, I think, going into the next season. Maybe another team like the Giants are like, screw it. Would we rather give Zach Wilson a chance, or Daniel Jones give us migraines for another season?
Yeah, I could honestly, I could maybe see the Giants. I don't know. I honestly don't think Zach Wilson would want to go to the Giants, even though it's a different team. It's the same media, same
I do
place.
agree.
I think he just doesn't want to go back there to the area.
He
But
wants to stay away from New York.
yeah, but I could definitely see him being a viable guy.